this computer. All right. We are officially recording. We are on Facebook, and later we'll put it on YouTube. And you're on.
Okay, can everyone hear and see us out there at this point?
Yes.
All right, hello everybody. This is the Humboldt County Human Rights Commission meeting, monthly meeting for July 2nd. We'll be going 5 to 7 p.m. You can find the agenda on our website, or I believe it's posted in the event page. And you can also find this recorded on Zoom later, or it'll still be here online. If you have any input, the meeting will begin. We'll do roll call, approval of minutes, agenda adjustments, and then we'll have a 10-minute period open for public comment, which you could engage via the Zoom link or via questions on Facebook. So we'll start with roll call. Jim Glover.
Here.
Carol Larson. Bird Lochte.
Here.
Stephen Lorius. Mary Lyons. Larry Miller. Eddie Morgan.
Here.
Aaron Rowe.
Here.
Johnny Rush. Toby Vallandingham. All right, everyone got the minutes sent to them. Do we have a no? Oh, that's correct. We unfortunately did not receive the minutes from our last meeting. We are hoping to get them soon, but the person is not present this evening. So we'll have to move that to next month's agenda to approve those minutes. Are there any agenda adjustments? Bird.
Yes, I would like to ask that we move 11C3, which is the resignation of the secretary, to right now, so that we will have someone taking minutes for us for the rest of the meeting.
Thank you, Bird. Would anyone like to second that? Thank you, Aaron. So we will move 11C up to the next agenda item.
Vote it.
Oh, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. And just for anyone who's watching, tonight is my first night as chair. So I'm very blessed to be surrounded by masters who are going to help me do this, but please be patient with me because I'm quite nervous. Okay, so in regards to that role of secretary, through communications, Stephen Lorius has expressed that he wishes to resign from that role. So how would we properly proceed? Bird?
I move the appointment of Jim Glover as secretary.
Would anyone like to second that? Aaron? All those in favor?
Aye.
Oh, we should have some discussion.
Yeah. Let's have some discussion.
Actually, any other nominations too?
Oh, okay. So any other nominations? Discussion?
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Jim was okay, go ahead, Eddie.
All right. I recommend that we make Jim temporary secretary until we have the election. We have an election. So, because we want to do it 30 days in advance. So I say we make the motion that he is the temporary secretary until he's elected. Until he or somebody else is elected. That's what I think is more appropriate.
Bird?
I just want to say that Jim had agreed to serve in this capacity.
And we thank him a lot.
Yes.
But it's everything has just happened, and maybe some people have not heard of it. So I think procedurally, if we gave, said, hey, Jim is the
Temporary.
temporary, and then if everything works out, then he'll become the full-time one, and then we can take advantage of him then. But in the meantime, I think that would be the appropriate way of doing it.
So what I'm hearing is if Jim will accept the temporary role, and then on the next agenda, we have an election.
Exactly.
Okay.
Sounds good.
And I do.
Thank you, Jim. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. All right. Jim, do you have any reports on emails or any communications like that? Oh, Bird?
The public comment section.
Oh, I can't see that part.
Oh, okay. Well, it's time for it now because it comes after the adjustments.
Got it. Okay. So do we have anybody that's in the room on Zoom that would like to make any public comments that are not on the agenda? If you do, you would probably take yourself off mute.
Mr. Chair, we just had a couple of people want to come in. There we go. So why don't you ask the question one more time?
Okay. Right now, we're taking time for public comments. If there's anybody that's on the Zoom that would like to address the commission on an item that's not on the agenda, please take yourself off mute and wave your hand so we can see you. All right, Vernon.
Good evening. Can everyone hear me okay? I do apologize for just joining. Was having some technical difficulties, so I apologize. Can everyone hear me all right?
Yes.
We can.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, everyone. It's lovely to see faces again. I hope everyone is doing the best that they can in this COVID-19, staying healthy and well. And thank you all for still continuing to serve the community in the capacity that you are, even electronically. So I just want to say thank you again. It is an honor and a privilege to have the opportunity to come before such a lovely board that has hearts and passion for our community. I have sent a letter that was sent from the Behavioral Health Board of Humboldt County to the Human Rights Commission for your consideration for review and possibly endorsing this. The purpose and intent of me asking for your support and endorsement of this as the Human Rights Commission is to be able to show the Board of Supervisors that these are urgent matters that need to be addressed in our community for unhoused people, or unhoused citizens in our community, along with those that are having mental health challenges. And I think and I've also passed this off to other nonprofits to take to their board of directors. So if we can form a unified voice in our community, I believe you know the old saying and stands very true: united we stand, divided we fall. So please consider on reading this, reviewing it at your discretion and at your leisure, and giving a possible endorsement or signing on to this. And I thank you for your time. If there's any questions, I'll be glad to address those.
Vernon?
Yes, sir.
Vernon, I haven't shared that letter with the group yet because I expected you would talk about it. So you might want to give them a summary of what the letter is about, and then I can share it.
Okay. I don't know how to split my screen yet to pull up the document on my laptop, so please forgive me for looking down. I'm pulling it up on my phone as we speak.
Or Vernon, if you could just give us a condensed version and then we can review it after.
Okay.
So we understand.
Okay. I've got it here. It is a 4-page letter, and it was submitted to the Board of Supervisors, to Estelle Fennell, on June 16th of this year. And this is from the Humboldt County Behavioral Health Board. And this is addressing the CCT and or reentry support, the housing in our community, non-traditional treatment and residential facilities, the Hope Center, a 24/7 shelter, step-down housing, access to services, and public involvement with the Behavioral Health Board and the community. This is following comments we are offered by the following comments are offered by our board, Behavioral Health Board Advisory Committee regarding upcoming 3-year plan for expenditures and funds made available from the Mental Health Service Act, otherwise known as the MHSA. Excuse me, accounting. It is our understanding that there is some uncertainty regarding both the timing of the upcoming 3-year plan and possible the criteria of direction of the MHSA funding due to the COVID-19. So this is addressing multiple things, as I said, CCT and reentry support, housing, and non-traditional treatment residential facilities. It gives suggestions and also other criteria, if that makes any sense. I apologize. I wasn't expecting to give a synopsis or brief on that. So I come to you tonight ill prepared, and my humble apologies for that.
You did a great job, Vernon. I understand a lot better. Thank you.
I love your glasses. Yeah.
Thank you.
Bird's got her hand up.
Bird?
Could we make it clear to Vernon that we cannot take any action on this until next meeting?
Yes. Oh, yes. I understand. Yes.
Is that time-wise, is that acceptable?
There is no time limit on this. There is, I understand under the protection of the Brown Act that there's no action that can be taken. And I respect and I understand that. And even if amongst, conversation amongst your board, if y'all decide not to, there's no hard feelings. And at the end of the day, we all love each other and we still move forward together.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Vernon.
Thank you.
Any more comments around Vernon's? Okay, any other public comments?
Thank you so much. Y'all have a beautiful evening.
Thank you, Vernon.
We had somebody just join us.
It's Larry.
Hey, Larry.
I'm on board.
Right
Very good.
on. Good to have you on board. Okay, well, so any more public comments? All right, I think we are on to move through the agenda.
Can I just say something really quick?
Yes,
If
please.
anybody wants to put a comment on our Facebook or anything like that, if it's not rude or anything like that, we'll announce it to you, to the chair. So our Facebook's live. There's 15 people. There's 26 engagements. So feel free to put comments there.
All right, well, shall we move on to the agenda items? Commission communications. Jim, do you have anything to report in that regard, since I haven't been able to get into that email yet?
No, it's not just email though, but it's email, regular mail, and phone calls. Nothing to report on that at the moment.
Okay, thank you. Bird?
I do have something to report. I had an email from Denise at McLean, and she said that our grant that we had was supposed to be finished by July of 2020, and they are willing to give us a year because of the unusual situation. I told her that I was sure we would like to have that. I would just have to get approval from the board tonight, or the commission tonight. So I move that we accept the 1-year extension of our grant.
And what is the amount of that grant that they give to us, Bird?
It's what's left in the amount, and Mary has that. I don't have that.
Okay.
I'll second the motion.
All those in favor?
Well,
Discussion.
discussion.
Sorry.
My question is sort of related to what Lelania asked. Are we just extending the existing amount, or would we be applying again for a new amount of money?
We're extending what we have right now. And when I talked with Denise, I did say, if could we apply again? And she said, yes, but we're just talking about the one we have right now that was supposed to end yesterday.
Okay.
So should we also reapply?
Well, I think,
Go ahead.
if I may, I think we need to see where we are, see how much we have, see what we're doing with it. And yes, we can reapply. And I did tell Denise I was willing to do that. And I told Mary, I copied her on everything with Denise, but I haven't heard anything back from Mary. So I don't know where we are on that right now.
Okay. Thank you, Bird. Any more discussion? Aaron,
No discussion.
now we vote?
Yes.
Okay. All those in favor?
I
Okay.
Aye.
Good. Okay. Any nays?
Oh, I think we're all in favor. Are there any other announcements or communications that anyone on the commission wishes to speak on? Jim?
I just wanted to share that Bird has supplied me with Black Lives Matter buttons or pins, and those I will have available at the grand jury office each Monday morning from 9 a.m. until 12 p.m. So people can just stop in. I always have the door open. That office is located right next to the Board of Supervisors office. And I must say, I wasn't sure after I got those pins from Bird yesterday, whether or not they were going to be allowed through the screening system, but they were, so we're okay. Anyway, those pins are available. I think there are about a dozen of them, 15 or so. Bird?
Well, there were several people at the last meeting who said they would like to have them. So now is your chance to get your button. These are the ones that I was talking about before and was able to get.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim, for being the distributor.
Sure.
Thank you, Jim. Okay, shall we move on to the next item? Because we don't have the minutes from the last meeting, so I'm not sure who's on the schedule for July 1st. Bird? Okay.
I am. I have not had anything for 2 days.
Okay. Well, that's good news.
Well, yes, but I mean, today isn't over. It just started.
It did just,
But I haven't had anything yet.
okay. Do we know who's on from the 16th to the 31st?
We do.
Larry.
Yeah.
Larry.
Okay. All right. And then we need to fill August and September. I can do the 1st through the 15th.
Okay. I'll do the 16th through the 31st.
Okay. Anybody want to dive into September?
I can do the first part of September.
Thanks, Aaron.
I'll shoot for the last part. This is Larry.
Thanks, Larry. All right. We have the call line covered. Yes, Bird?
Larry does far more than his share of the call. Thank you, Larry.
He does.
Yes, it does.
And so does Jim.
Yes. Okay, next on the agenda is the treasurer's report, and our treasurer is not here. So do we move that to next month's agenda, correct? Do we need to Jim?
Well, I would suggest that, yes, you can take the report at the next meeting, but we should take some step to engage with Mary, because we have some other items that depend on her actions with the bank, i.e. the ongoing Zoom account that we want to establish. We can't really do that without knowing where we stand as far as the bank is concerned.
So is that something that I would just reach out to her about, or is that something that we would discuss here, or how does that work?
Well, two things. One, you could, you and Eddie and I were planning to meet tomorrow morning, so we could discuss it then, but I think it would be appropriate for you to contact Mary and get up to speed on where she's at with these things.
Okay, all right.
So for the clarity of the group, what we're talking about is paying for our bills right now, which is the possibility of the Zoom and the Google Suites, I believe. Those are the only two things we're talking about.
Correct. Okay, so do we need to vote on any of that, Jim, or do we just move forward to the next agenda item? Okay, next agenda item is the Correctional Facility Liaison Report, which is Eddie.
I have nothing to report. Everything is on shutdown. I will make a call again to find out if anybody has called, but right now I have nothing to report.
I had, and I guess this is the right place to talk about it. I had someone reach out to me in regards to how women are treated in that process through the mental health system, and that a couple women got their water shut off a month or two ago. And I don't know if that's something that this committee would look into. No? Okay.
I would think that is beyond the scope of this particular assignment. That may be justified somewhere else, but it's not a correctional facility issue, is it?
Are you asking me or Eddie?
Yeah, no, you, because you brought up about the women.
Yeah, it was in a local correctional facility.
All right, I think that's plausible. That's important to have water. That goes under the Geneva Convention. So, but I would like Aaron. Go ahead, Jim.
Well, I just want to clarify. Are you saying it is the correctional facility or some correctional facility?
Humboldt County.
Okay,
She didn't give me an exact name, but it is in Humboldt County.
Okay.
I mean, we only have one, I believe, but
yes.
She did not give me a name. She just gave me the experience. And I'm hoping she's going to write us a letter.
That would help.
So, Eddie, you were asking Aaron for assistance or what?
Yeah, because if I remember correctly, Aaron, and tell me if I'm making things up here, we discussed that you would help me if it had to do if we had to check things. I mean, maybe not. We don't need to do about this because it's just about the water. But anytime we go to a women's facility, you were going to accompany me, or am I making that up?
You're just hearing my intent.
Okay.
It's so strong, but no, I'm not doing it. Yeah. I think I might have confused it when I just gave them the books. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Okay. So yes, I would love to do that, but I'm sorry, I'm not in a position to do that now. So.
Okay, I hear you. All right, I'll but I can't do anything if I don't know where, what, and when, kind of a deal. So
yeah, no, this is a few. It's not just one incident, but hopefully someone will write us a letter to help us have more clarity. But I think it's something that you could keep your eyes and ears open as you're navigating that arena.
Will do.
Okay, so nothing really to report. We move on to the next item, to the committee reports, which the next item on the agenda is the Human Trafficking Fund. We spoke, so the funds have been dispersed. We're waiting to get back if the bus advertisement has been posted. It was, they did change it. They did redo it, and it looked great. But we're not sure if it's on the buses yet or not, or when that started. So we're waiting to hear back on that, but everything's kind of moving along. We have not circled back with the other folks yet, but also both of those programs will be inhibited by COVID at this time.
Yeah, very much so.
Yes. Any discussion, Jim?
I just have a question. The other people other than EPI or EPI, they are funded now? Is that
Yep.
correct?
Yep.
So there's been, they know that?
They have the money. The money's been dispersed.
It has been dispersed. Okay.
It's not in the account anymore.
Okay.
Okay, any more comments or questions? Okay, then on to the next item, which is the Racism Cultural Awareness Ad Hoc Committee.
No,
No?
No, I
Oh,
think
you skipped a
oh,
couple.
I skipped way down, didn't I? I apologize for that. The next item is the Sanctuary Ordinance Committee. And that's Jim.
Okay, well, that's now you, but
Oh.
no, there's been no activity on that.
Okay, so I'm now, I didn't know that I now engage in that committee.
I mean, you can assign it any way you want, but officially you'd be in charge of following through on that.
Got it. Okay. All right. Then the next item is the Kindness Ad Hoc Committee. We are trying, right now we're trying to connect. We made a Humboldt Kindness group on Facebook, which is connected to my account. And what we're trying to do right now is with the county is connect the Humboldt Human Rights Commission account with that Humboldt Kindness group. So we can start linking everything together and it can be interconnected. But really we just need everyone to keep using the hashtag Humboldt Kindness, to help share with our friends, our community members. And I think we're gonna get an opportunity through one of our next committees to have a chance to do more direct community outreach, which we'll talk about in the digital accessibility conversation. Any questions? Comments? All right. We'll move on to the next item. Racism Cultural Awareness Ad Hoc Committee. The chair is not here for this meeting. Jim, I need your support in this aspect of it. How do we move forward? Because I think a lot of us feel that it's very important for this committee to be activated. And how can we move forward? Because I believe we're missing 3 of our members of that committee and it hasn't met yet. So what can we do to get moving on it?
Well, if you're asking my opinion, I think that the absence of the chair and 2 other members of the committee means we probably need to reformulate that committee. Otherwise, we just are waiting for another month just to find out we're still sitting in the same place.
Okay. So do we remove the members that aren't participating to include more, because it's at its maximum right now, correct?
Well, I think their absence speaks for itself. I don't know what else to say.
So how many slots do we have open then on that committee?
You're on it, correct?
Right, I'm on it.
We have 3.
Okay, so can I appoint myself as on that committee as chair to get it rocking and rolling and see if anyone else would like to join me?
Yes.
Okay, Bird?
I don't even think you have to say you're appointing yourself. Am I muted?
No,
You're
no.
I think you can say as chair that you need to reform this committee, and this is how you're going to do it.
Okay. So as chair, I would like to reform the Racism and Cultural Awareness Committee and place myself as chair. And I'd like to open the floor for some volunteers to join me on that committee. Jim, thank you.
I would assume that Stephen is still staying on this committee.
I would hope so.
So you need 2 people, right?
Although I can't speak for him, and I have to say that I don't have clarity on that, but my impression is that he needs to step back from any additional responsibilities right now, but the commission itself. So I don't want to bank on that, but we do need to get clarity because it would be really nice to have him and the other 2 participate, but
Who are the other 2?
Carol and Toby.
Yeah, I thought so. Okay.
yes, Jim?
On a short-term basis, I would step in until you do get clarity on the other people. I understand Stephen's situation, but I stepping back from every committee kind of takes you out of the equation. So I would see if he's still interested in serving on this one committee at least.
Okay. I'll circle back with him and get clarity on that and hopefully encourage him to participate. So that's Jim and myself. And as of right now, Stephen is still on that committee, and Carol and Toby, we assume, aren't participating. Is that?
Can I jump in? This is Larry.
Hi, Larry.
You know, it's guys. It seems to me that it's incredibly important that we have, you know, on this, you know, committee, that we have some folks of color, you know, the Native American community. You know, gosh, just really, I think if there's anything that we can do to encourage, facilitate, empower Toby and Susan to, Carol to, you know,
Larry, if
move
you
forward on that, you know, that seems to be incredibly important.
I think I agree. I think we all agree with you on that. Larry, if you have any ideas of how we could do that, because I've reached out, I know Jim has reached out. We would really like support on that, because I agree with you 100%, but it's also a committee that really should be working right now, and it hasn't even met under these circumstances. Bird?
There's a question in the chat which says, can ad hoc committees include non-commissioners? And I would say they might not be members of the committee. They could be invited as community people to participate in the meetings. So perhaps that would be a way to get some more people that are not part of the commission and part of the, you know, stick below our quorum number.
Yes. Also, you know, we did this a little bit with the Human Trafficking Committee, is we can kind of work side by side that way too really well, and empower other projects if they're participating with us through the committee. So yeah, maybe we'll get some good feedback from tonight around that.
You do want to make sure you find out, Lelania, who that person might be that's interested, so that we don't lose touch with them.
Okay, can we see that?
It's Access Humboldt. I think it's Sean.
Oh, okay, great. Okay. We're gonna hear from him later tonight.
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. So can I get a motion? Do I need a motion, Jim? What's the next step so we can move this committee forward?
Are you satisfied you've got enough people, first of all?
Well, we don't really know how many we have. So
Okay.
I think with you and I, we can get to the next stage quick enough to get our Bird.
I think I don't think we need a motion. I think we just have that you as chair are saying we have a committee that's not functioning. You're going to reform that committee and get it in functioning, and then you can bring it to the next meeting and we can formalize it as an ad hoc committee again with another expiration date.
Oh, okay. All right.
Lelena,
Yeah, Eddie.
we have somebody here on Facebook, Marlon Jarvis, if I'm mispronouncing his name, and he says, I would be interested in participating in the racism committee as well. Was not able to get into Zoom meeting. I don't know why that is, but I'll take a look. But I'll keep his name so you can contact him.
Great.
So we have it on the record. So sorry,
Thank you.
Marlon, for not being able to get you on Zoom. I don't know what's going wrong. Everybody that's asked to come on has been admitted.
Also, anyone who wishes to participate or has anything around the subjects that we're discussing, you can email us or reach us on the Facebook as well. You know, we are here to listen. Okay, well then, should we move on to the next item, which is the Public Observer Ad Hoc Committee. Eddie, earlier, and I wasn't able to look into it, you said that we had the wrong chair for that committee.
Yes, it's Eddie.
Oh, okay.
But you know, if Miller wants to do it, I'm all for it.
Sounds like you're up.
Really quick, we've met. I'm happy to say that Humboldt County and sir, if there's anything, Larry, if there's anything that you want to add in or chime in, please do that. We met, and our purpose is to come up with a committee that has a written contingency plan which is accepted by local authorities, to be able to observe demonstrations or protests here in Humboldt County. And the roadmap that we looked at, what are the next step? We're looking at some of the histories and the regulations that involve that. And then the next thing we're going to do is put a plan together and ask for monies for the county for training. The end state, ideally where we would be at, is that it would be led by the Humboldt County Human Rights Commission, but we'd have participants from other groups. It could be the League of Women's Voters, any of the groups here in Humboldt County. They would all have a badge or a card, and when there was a protest or something of that nature, or a rally or anything, we could have these people go out, observe, and they would have a list of the things that they would want to take down, like how many, if there were any arrests, and there's some items that we want to look. So right now, I'd say we're about 30% on getting things together. We'll probably have some sort of plan in the next 2 months. That's where we stand with that. Larry, did I miss anything?
Excellent job, Eddie. Excellent.
Eddie, could you touch on a little bit more about the kind of information that we would be gathering? Because that was part of the discussion we had.
Yes. And I did touch on it, but briefly. So I think what we do not want is to have people just go stand around and observe. And what we do want is we want to have an objective list of things that are observed. And I think the good examples would be, were people arrested? Was the road block? There's a list of items that you look at when you look at different demonstrations of things, of what the police is doing, what the protesters are doing, how many fires, was there any vandalism, and just come up with the numbers of that nature. Was there any police brutality? Was there any things? And so be very specific on the things that we want and give that information in a very clean, statistical way, that way there's no doubt of transparency. And so how do we train people that all groups feel confident that we are a legitimate group that is looking and being objective at those items?
Yeah, and Eddie, let me jump in. And really, some of the things that we won't be doing would be, for example, identifying individuals by name, and we're just going to be very objective about the actions. Yeah. So anyway, okay, that's all.
Thank you, Larry. That was actually what I was kind of looking for. Hi, Bird.
I think, Eddie, you've presented a mission statement for this ad hoc committee, and I think it's always good to have that approved by the commission. So
Yes.
Perhaps that can be the agenda for next month to have it voted on.
Good point. So this is the purpose of the committee. Right? We have as an ad hoc committee, we have a very narrow, strict, and so this is I don't know if you can see it. The purpose of this committee is to have a written contingency plan, which is accepted by local authorities, the commission itself, regarding and a quick rendering a quick observation for Humboldt County demonstrators and to protest in Humboldt County. So that's what we're looking at, and I'll be submitting that.
Yeah. So people should be looking at that and be prepared to accept it at the next meeting.
Yeah, and in the meantime, if there's any recommendations, I don't have any issue, but this is what the committee came up with. And I'll be sending that out to everybody.
I love it. I love this system, Eddie.
And it's just in its infancy, so don't worry about it.
Right. Any discussion? Any more discussion?
Was the word quick capitalized? The site, Eddie?
No, but I understand what you're saying. But yes, quick should, yeah. I mean, when people should be there when the actual event occurs. So I totally agree with that.
Okay. Well, the next agenda item is the Digital Accessibility Ad Hoc Committee. And that again is Eddie Morgan.
Yes, and that's all I'm doing. Okay, so the Digital Accessibility Ad Hoc Committee's mission is to enhance the ability of Humboldt County residents to participate in Humboldt County Human Rights Commission meetings and the decision-making process using all available current technologies and techniques. That's what we're about. We want to improve accessibility to our committee, to Human Rights Committee. I will submit that mission statement to the commission. That's our scope, and we came up with a list of tasks. Ideally, the way we would measure this at the end is we'd have more people participate in our meetings. That would be that. So that's the short thing. We're working actually during this meeting. I'm not going to steal Mr. Glover's thunder, but the protocol, the bylaws are going to be submitted to the county. Is that correct, Mr. Glover?
Yes, it is an agenda item.
And then I just read the mission statement. We have 2 advocacy plans. The first advocacy plan is to have the Board of Supervisors participate in some of our meetings. And then the other one is to have other people like from Garberville and other areas participate in our committee. And then, yes, Mr. Glover.
Well, I just was looking at the agenda, and we can submit the recommended bylaw changes, but it isn't on the agenda.
Oh, yes, it is.
Where?
It's a committee report.
That's where it is. Okay.
Yes. And
It just wasn't itemized.
it was sent out to everyone.
Yes. Okay, good.
What we have
Good.
to do is everybody has to see it in writing a month before, and then in August, we can vote on it. So it'll be a specific agenda item for action next time.
So we have a question on Facebook. So I'm going to mess this name up. Sada Ashka. How will the statistics determine the mission of the protest and if the mission was accomplished? I think whatever the mission of the protest is, that's a separate part from making sure that there are no human rights violations, and that the people were given the right to protest. I think that's where I'm coming from. If anybody else wants to chime into that.
Well, I'd like to add to that. I think, that's where the word observer comes in. An observer is not there to judge, not there to make impact. They're there to observe. So if there are any human rights violations and there's question, there's objective observers to help investigate that, if that's what it is, or to help validate what happened. So it's purely objective. It's not about what the protest is about or what the gathering is about. It's about having it documented in a way that is objective.
No, I think that sounds very, yep, I agree with that. Very good.
So Eddie, I wanted to get more clarity on the outreach before we move on to the public or to the digital accessibility. I think what we were talking about is we've historically had community meetings, outreach meetings, where we go into Willow Creek, Southern Humboldt, Ferndale. And when we started our meetings this year, our first meeting was in Fortuna, and it was canceled due to COVID. And those outreach meetings are really where we get a lot of our understanding of where the community is at and what the community needs are. And so we're trying to restructure those meetings so we can continue to engage with our communities. And so what we would do is host more of a listening session, where this is all under Brown Act, and we have to observe those rules. But a listening session, and what we hope to do is to go and have a meeting just for Southern Humboldt, and hopefully have the Board of Supervisors engage with us in that meeting, and then have the community engage, where we're listening to you. What are your human rights needs and what are your concerns in your community? And then go throughout the different parts of our community repeating the same thing.
Can I jump in? This is Larry.
Hi, Larry.
I think on the digital outreach, we really need to focus on, utilizing that technology to get, at least 2, if not 3. I'd happy to step aside if we could get 3 real people from Southern Humboldt as commissioners. And the technology, they should be able, they could be full participants, and only have to, come up to Eureka, once, every 6 months or something, or not nearly as much as, they have to now, because, when it's not, we don't have this Zoom technology to get them involved. So my comment is that, we, to have some of this digital technology committee focused on how it can help us get these, 3 or 4 vacancies filled with people from these outlying communities.
Jim?
Well, Larry, that is the purpose of the bylaw changes that will be considered. So
I know I've been translating those into actions out in the community, so they know, and they can be, a recruiting, effort.
I think, Larry, by getting out in the community this way digitally, we're going to show people that they can participate easy with more ease in our rural communities. I think
as commissioners is what my point. Not just, just not putting their 2 cents in from the field, but actually as commissioners.
right.
Yeah.
We have 2 comments from the public. I think one is has to do with the observer, the Observer Ad Hoc Committee, and it's Shida. I cannot pronounce her name. Is this about human rights violations or property destruction? Chair, would you like to address that?
Well, we're the Human Rights Commission. We're not the police. We're not the sheriff's department. We're not, you know, that we don't regulate that aspect. We're community servants. So this would be strictly about human rights.
If I could, an observer, an independent observer corps would be looking at what is happening, not why or who's doing it, what are the actions that are happening. And if something is illegal, the observer would not be saying, this is illegal. The observer would be saying, I observed a person cut down a tree in the middle of somebody's front lawn. That is the action. And then that would go to the appropriate authorities to see. And the observer would be saying, I saw this happen. That's what the observers will be doing. They will not be making any judgments, and they will not be trying to clarify anything and say this is a human rights issue, this is a legal issue, any of that. They will just be saying, these are the things that we saw. This is what we saw. Does that make sense?
That made a lot of sense to me. And they will be trained.
Yes.
That's I think another good point, that people will be trained in how to translate the information in the manner you're speaking to.
There are 2 chat things about it as well. And the from Access Humboldt saying it's a brilliant idea, and adding a media component, gathering open data and intelligence helps to keep activities transparent and accountable. Like this Washington Post report on demonstrations in DC, very instructive. And then they've given the link so you can look at that if you want to.
Great. Okay, I think we got a little off here. Let me circle us back to where we were. Digital Accessibility Ad Hoc Committee. Eddie, did you have anything else to speak on that committee?
No, we had our first meeting. We're at the infancy. Like I said, our bottom line is not one of the many, but is, do we have more participation? Are we hearing more voices? Are we hearing the community better? I would say that's the bottom line.
And again, we are presenting a purpose, which next month we can approve for the committee.
Okay, any more discussion? Jim?
Do we need to present the wording of the bylaw recommendation this evening, or is it paper copy or digital copy adequate to hold over till the next meeting?
Bird?
According to our bylaws, it needs to be introduced in writing, and it was because it's in the agenda.
So a reading is not necessary?
No, but it might be a good idea to read it so everybody knows what we're doing, especially because we have somebody on the phone.
Okay, well, I do have it ready if you want that at this point.
I think
Yes, please do that, Jim.
Okay, this is what the committee has recommended. These are bylaw additions and revisions for Human Rights Commission. Under meetings, Section 3A, the word physical is inserted in that paragraph. That's the only change on 3A. I don't think I'll bother to read the rest of it because it's unchanged.
Right.
3B is added, and this says virtual meetings to be public. All regular and special meetings of the Commission shall be open to the public in accordance with the Brown Act of the State of California. Commissioner participation in regular or special meetings of the Commission, as permitted by law, may be by electronic process, such as video conferencing or teleconferencing, provided all members of the Commission and the public, Ah.
Get rid of it. You
Thought we
yes,
got rid of that. It's still in there. Let me repeat that. Provided all members of the commission and the public can see and hear one another. In order to meet a quorum of commissioners, 5 must be present within the county, as noted in the posted agenda at the courthouse and on the webpage of the commission on the county site. Commissioners participating remotely, but not within the county, are not counted in the qualifying quorum, but may otherwise participate in the meeting. Business in virtual meetings will be conducted in the same manner that meetings conducted in person are, including the same notice and quorum requirements as above. The commission may conduct regular or special meetings in differing areas of the county, provided the usual posting at the courthouse website also includes the remote location being used for said meeting. So that's what is proposed, and we can repeat posting it one more time before the next meeting so that when we vote, we have all of that information.
Just a reminder that when it is presented as a motion next month, then people can react to it. And if you have any potential changes or anything you don't like about it, that's the time that we will talk about it and it in the open meeting.
Okay, so we don't need to vote on anything at this point in time.
No, you can't.
Right.
No.
Okay, got it. Okay. So we have finished with our reports, and now we move on to unfinished business. And the first at the top of that agenda is the Board of Supervisors annual report. Jim.
Well, the annual report has been shared with everybody over the last few days. And if we approve the presentation, it would be presented to the Board of Supervisors on July 28th. I am unable to do that myself. So a summary would be presented to this would be sent to the Board of Supervisors in total, and a summary presentation of probably 2 or 3 paragraphs would be made, hopefully in person, to the Board of Supervisors so that there's the opportunity to discuss it. If we didn't make the summary presentation, they might not even discuss it. Bert?
Are they meeting in person or by Zoom?
Zoom. At least as of right now, they are.
Okay.
Can you,
Pardon?
I was gonna say, can you help with that 2 to 3 paragraph summary for the presentation?
Yes. I did want to note that the copy that was shared with everybody as part of the agenda packet was 99 9/10% complete. I did have a discussion with Bird this afternoon, and there were a couple of spaces, commas, things like that that were addressed beyond what you saw before. And then in the reference to the human trafficking funding, a sentence was added, and I'll read you the sentence. It's brief, but this will show up in the final copy that the supervisors would receive. And the addition is, this resource link was established with funding approved by the Board of Supervisors from the people of the County of Humboldt. So that's all that is, just clarifying where the money really came from.
Bird?
And the correction of the dates of last year's.
Yes,
Yeah.
it referenced the previous year's report instead of last year's.
Yeah.
Okay, so do we move to approve? Go ahead, Bird.
I move the approval of the annual meeting report as amended.
Thank you. Anyone second?
I'll second it.
Eddie, thank you. All those in favor?
Well, you need discussion.
Oh, discussion. I'll get it.
Yeah, I know.
There may not be any, but you got to allow for it.
Gotta add. And because there are people,
It's
Not-
a learning process. I want to learn to do it right.
so there may be people who are visiting who want to say something.
Right. So any discussion from the commission or the audience?
We have some comments, but they have to do more with the observer. I would say I'll give you those at the end when you get to that point.
Okay. Okay. Maybe I should address those now while we're waiting because it seems to be coming in later.
Why don't you finish with the motion, and then
Okay.
if you want, I can read them to you.
All right. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Thanks, Larry. All right. We move to approve the Board of Supervisors annual report. All right. What Eddie and I were just discussing is that there's some input in regards to the previous item, the Digital Accessibility Ad Hoc Committee.
No, I think it has to do more with the observer.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm reading something different then.
Yeah. Well, remember, we have two sources. We have the Facebook and we have the Zoom. So if you want to take care of the accessibility, go for it.
Thank you. Since it's in my brain. So it was mentioned, one of the big issues for engagement of commissioners, which we would love to see more applications of really active community members that wish to be a part of this process. But also community engagement is accessibility because we do live in such a rural environment. It's hard to get to the county. It's to the county offices and it's hard to attend. But with these new looser rules around the Brown Act, we're able to host meetings in this form. And what Humboldt Access has suggested for those of you that, and we will take this into consideration as well for our meetings, is that to utilize the county libraries. That there would be accessibility there to get online to participate in these meetings.
Very good. There's also a comment from Access Humboldt which says, why so restrictive? And I don't quite understand what that means.
I believe what he was referring to is the accessibility rules when Jim was reading in what the requirements are to participate as a commissioner. And I'm not sure exactly what that was, but I know that when we were discussing this, it was why do we have to be in county to be part of a quorum? So,
But isn't that what we got from county council, Jim?
Yes, it is.
So our restrictions, we don't come up with those. We follow the law as we're told we have to from the county council.
But somebody just posted something and it didn't stay on long enough.
yep, we answered the question, Bird. You did a good job. That was just replying that we answered it. Eddie, would you like to touch on the other comments, the public observer comments?
Yes, we have two messages from Maggie Holiday. The first one is, if they are reporting to authorities, how are these legal observers different from a widespread surveillance and punishment of people engaged in civil disobedience? That's a question.
Jim?
Well, I've just so that everybody understands, we're just now formulating this committee. And so it's a little bit early to be defining exactly how they're going to work. That committee just is starting to meet. So I'm sure that most of these concerns or questions will be addressed in due order.
I also want to add that anyone who has been a longtime community member, that this was enacted during the timber wars, correct, Larry?
Yes, initially.
Maybe you could answer, from that perspective, I mean, we're working on how we're going to do this, but from that perspective, maybe you could answer how it worked back then.
Can I jump in?
Go ahead, Larry.
Hello?
Yeah, Larry,
Hello.
go ahead.
I was just going to say, now I lost what I was going to say. I got off the phone. The neutral observers of the Human Rights Commission kind of changed and became, once the county risk manager said that we couldn't participate because it was outside of our activities. We formed the Independent Observer Program, which included folks from the ACLU, some folks in Southern Humboldt, and we actually we received 8 hours of training paid for by the county, and their willingness to continue being involved. And that Independent Observer Program, I sent Eddie, the pledge of the Independent Observer Program, which was essentially more from the Neutral Observer Program of the Human Rights Commission. And it really is a pretty, I think, real good document to look at for someone questioning what the independent observers or neutral observers would be all about. So I'm just throwing that out there. Eddie, I don't know if that can be sent to the other commissioners or not, but
So what Maggie, the person that asked the question, said Bird, I believe her name is, did they say the legal observers would be reporting to authorities? That's what my concern is about.
No, not unless we'd be reporting to the Board of Supervisors. That's the bottom line is, that's what we are. We are the eyes and ears of the Board of Supervisors in matters of human rights, and that's what, if we're reporting to anybody, I guess we could be, those observers could possibly be subpoenaed, I guess. I don't know. Again, like Jim says, we're really kind of in the infantile stage of this, and this will evolve and get fine-tuned.
Bird?
If it was interpreted that I said we would report to legal, I didn't mean to say that. What I meant to say was that whatever is happening, legal or illegal, would only be something we're observing, and reporting to the Board of Supervisors, if we report at all, we might just be reporting at our own meeting that this happened. Not that we decided it was illegal or what. I mean, we would only decide if we thought human rights were destroyed or not observed. Yeah. So I think the training that comes for people for this is going to really determine how we write all the criteria, the job descriptions, all these things will have to fit with the training and the things that are needed for a neutral observer corps.
I will butt in. One of the questions is by Carl is, how would the training, who would do the training? And I think the answer to that is we do not know yet. It's too early.
Okay, any other comments?
Maggie Holly, thank you for, thank you. I was hoping to get clarification on who authorities. My hope is that legal observers would be focused on protecting people's rights and preventing police brutality and misconduct. It sounds that you share that priority. So I think that's a good comment. And then I have another comment, but just I think there's just a mistake. It says R. So,
And like we just mentioned, that we, you know, when a committee's working, that we're welcoming community engagement and support in these projects and input.
There's another comment from Access Humboldt. New technology can stream neutral coverage in real time to an open shared source. So and they're saying media needs to be involved, and they are offering something for us. So we need to partner with them.
Well, as we have one more agenda item, and then we get to speak to Sean directly. We get to hear from Sean directly about this. Shall we move on to the next item?
Yes.
Okay. Zoom, Glover and Morgan.
Well,
yeah.
since I missed the meeting today, it's all Morgan.
okay, so this is the deal with Zoom. If you've been paying attention to the media, Zoom doesn't have the best reputation. And so, but what we do want to do is we want to be able to continue what we're doing right now. So I think the plan should be is that we do purchase the Zoom until we have some other device like Google, because I don't think there's any information that we put on this. We make this intentionally public. So if somebody is stealing our information, more power to them. They're helping us disseminate the messages. So my recommendation, and I'd like to make the motion that we purchase the Zoom account on a monthly purchase for the next 3 to 4 months, and then look into other possibly more, I don't know what the word is.
Value alignment.
Value, but also the problem with Zoom is the people that own it. And so as a Human Rights Commission, if we are purchasing somebody that is involved in Uyghur camps, that doesn't kind of fit us. So let's take that in consideration. So for now, I say let's go with it until we find something better, which is a compromise, I understand, but I think it's the best compromise.
Well, I don't think the owners are in quite that position. They are in a position of having workers in a country that is doing that.
Exactly.
And they are working very hard to see what they can do to get out of that situation. But right at the moment, they are kind of locked into a situation that isn't to their liking or our liking.
So I make the motion that we purchase the Zoom, but we keep an eye on the morality of the company that we're working with.
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Whoa.
Go ahead, Jim. Sorry, discussion. Gosh. Jim.
Eddie, can you put a definite time frame on your motion? For how many months?
90 days.
90 days.
Today.
Is that okay with Bird?
No, I think it should be 6 months.
Fair enough. 6 months.
If we find a different platform sooner, we can always come back to the commission.
Yes.
All right. Any discussion?
Further discussion. How are we going to pay for this? How are we going to pay for this?
So we can, the same way we do our Google Suites. So we have somebody that pays it and they get reimbursed. So I can take that on, or maybe somebody else should take it. I think that it's wrong for me to have it. I think somebody else should have it. It's $14. It would be put on that particular person's Visa card. They would have to demonstrate that they paid it, and then it would go. And that's another thing I don't like. That's why it's really important that our treasurer gets us a Visa card for the committee, so we're not doing this stuff on other person, which is not good.
So
can it be paid by check by the treasurer?
I don't think there's any way to do that.
It's all electronic, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
I will volunteer to use my credit card to pay for this with the understanding that it's reimbursed as I get my billings each month. That's what I've been doing through the other account, but that account is about to expire. The only other comment I'd make is I don't have a problem with the 6-month trial, but you get if we signed up before the 15th of July, it would be 30% off for the year if you took it for a year. But if that's not what the proposal is.
Yeah, I understand it's a good deal, but I don't want to participate in the race downwards. And I am concerned of what they're doing. And so the same way I'm always willing to pay more if something is purchased locally, I'm willing to put your money where my ideals are.
Me too.
That's mighty kind of you.
Okay.
What about the possibility of sending them a note about our concerns with their service?
Totally for that.
Sorry?
I think that's a good idea.
Oh, okay. Might have a better impact than just one account that they're not getting, you know?
Well, I think they're very much aware of it and trying to change it from what I've read about it. But it's they're dealing with a country that is very closed. And
I'm sorry. We just got a recommendation from one of the people, so we'll definitely look at it. We'll take a look at that.
Okay, so where we're at now, I think, is that Jim has agreed to put it on to his account until we get our own debit card, and we've approved 6 months.
we haven't voted.
We haven't
We
voted
haven't.
yet.
No, we haven't. Right. Okay, I'm just trying to make sure we're all on the same page.
Yes.
And we have a motion on the table.
Yes,
Do we have a second?
yes.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, fantastic.
Lelania, may I suggest that even though it's obvious, you should always ask for the nays and the abstentions?
Okay, thank you. It's not obvious because I'm not doing it.
Well, it is now.
It is now. And you'll probably have to remind me again. But
Oh, I will.
And I appreciate it. Okay, so now we're moving on to new business. Humboldt Access is here with us, Sean McLaughlin, and he's our first item of new business. Welcome, Sean. Thank you so much for coming.
Aloha, thanks for having me. I think I'm here because I had sort of suggested that this might be a good time to consider a range of possible collaborations between Access Humboldt and the Human Rights Commission. As I think most of you know, but I should repeat for those who don't know, Access Humboldt really has adopted a human rights framing for our mission and our whole orientation of the way we operate. We refer specifically to Article 19 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, that everyone has the right to freedom of opinion and expression, and that this right includes freedom to hold opinions without interference and to seek, receive, and impart information and ideas through any media and regardless of frontiers. And for us, that should keep us busy. You know, that's enough for us to take on. And I think I bring this up because I recognize that's Article 19 of the whole declaration. And you folks have taken on the whole Declaration of Human Rights, really, in your as your mission. And it's such an important mission. I also bring it up because I want you to know that we are dedicating our own resources, our own energy to this mission. So to the extent that there is something that you want to do that addresses this goal, you know, we want to be a partner. We will bring our own resources to the table. You know, this is part of what we want to do, even if you didn't exist. It turns out here we're in a county that has this amazing, you know, commission that's dedicated to this. So I guess, you know, most of you know our history, and I won't take your time now to review that, but I will say that we were created by the county and the cities to manage public resources that they have negotiated with the private cable provider. So essentially, we live on rent that Suddenlink or Altice, the parent company, pays to the county for using the public's rights of way. So we have a very fundamental relationship with the county and the cities, which are legally referred to as local franchise authorities. And they have jurisdiction to require rent, essentially. It's not called rent, but franchise fee payments from Altice, Suddenlink. And part of their arrangement is to also dedicate channels, network assets, and cash to Access Humboldt. And we really were created by them to manage these assets on behalf of the whole community. I think what's exceptional for Humboldt County is that those local governments said, and it's not just for local governments, this is for the whole community. So our board was designed to represent, we only have a county representative designated by the Board of Supervisors, a city's representative designated by the Mayor's Select Committee, and then we have other designated members from other organizations. I mean, they're 2 out of 16 board members. So they do not dominate or control the board or the governance of Access Humboldt, but in effect, we are managing public resources through an independent entity that is dedicated to this human rights mission. We clearly take that beyond just serving the, those jurisdictions. We work with the tribes, with community service districts, with all kinds of public agencies and nonprofit organizations and community groups and individual citizens. So in that sense, we are a service organization created by the county and cities. And we feel we're not a joint powers authority, but we're not very different from one. And so we relate to the commission as a, beneficiary of our service. I mean, as a county entity, we are here to help every county agency reach the community. So I guess I wanted to just share a couple of quick thoughts. So I wanted to just put that general concept on the table. I wanted to suggest to you that, and I apologize if I was too active in your Zoom chat, but every different item that you guys are doing, I imagine a way that we could help you. I know that you're stressed for capacity. I have to say, when I first visited you a dozen years ago and Bert invited me to a meeting and I found out you're all volunteers, you have no staff and no county attorney, no nothing, I was shocked and I ran away. So I respect the fact that you are limited capacity, and that's one reason why I have to admit, opportunistically, I took the Humboldt Area Foundation pledge as an offer to you to say, the Humboldt Area Foundation is saying they want to support equity. They want to support human rights. If you look at the statement that they put out and the things they want to fund, and that's what I shared in my email to you, it points to your commission and saying, there's things that you're doing that the community wants to support. The fact that you're a county entity and there are no resources from the county to do this, we got to get past that. You found McLean Foundation already. Maybe you started to find other funding sources. I don't know. I still see you struggling with even spending money, so I recognize that your capacity issues are, structural and not just otherwise. So I just mentioned that because I respect that you're all volunteers and spending your own time here. Whereas I'm working for my agency right now, admittedly, and proudly, I guess. So I just want to share a couple quick ideas. There are things that we have talked about with the commission in the past that maybe you would want to, besides what you're already doing, or that incorporate what you're doing, that might turn into proposals that could get funded and bring resources. But really, it's up to you guys. I have some of my own favorites that I would want to propose, but that's more personal than Access Humboldt, like I was saying in my chat. Basically, everything you're doing has an element that could benefit from more resources. And some of them are media, and some of them we can offer you for free and do now, and we don't need to ask for a grant to do them. Others, we can be the matching part of a grant. Maybe you're applying for a grant and we're offering you enough support that there's your match. But some examples, I think as a commission, you could consider doing your own media campaign and information campaign about the human rights, about what they mean, about the Declaration of Human Rights. I mean, maybe there ought to be a little video or audio or message from the Humboldt County Human Rights Commission about each of the articles of the human rights, for example. Or maybe there are things that maybe all the different things you're doing could use media exposure, and we could help you promote and invite participation. Maybe we could help you televise, get these meetings that are now being televised by themselves and automatically recorded. Maybe we could share these out if you feel like you want to. We could host your meeting and put it out on TV channels. We could do radio distribution of your meetings. You could take presentations out of your meetings and turn those into media product that you distribute on radio and TV. Things like that. There are some low-hanging fruit. There are some policy things that we could work on together. Recently, we approached you with a project that was brought to us from Electronic Frontier Foundation. For Sunshine Week, we had hosted a conversation about surveillance self-defense, that communities are concerned about the level and degree of surveillance that's occurring and how surveillance is happening and whether it's regulated or not. And there's a model ordinance out of Santa Clara County that is ways that local communities can pay attention to police surveillance activities and regulate them in a way that actually police departments. We had Chief Mills on a show with a human rights commissioner, or a couple of commissioners appeared on a show we did, right? Some of you remember this, about this topic. We could do more with that topic if you chose to pick it up. We could do more on police surveillance policy work. Another example is we do a lot of work on broadband access, getting access to broadband. This comes up when you do your own outreach. Who gets to participate in this meeting or on Facebook or Zoom? They have to have a broadband connection. So maybe a phone connection. I see Larry's calling in on a phone, but it's not easy. And broadband as a human right has become a really fundamental issue that the pandemic has re-elevated. I think I'll say one more and then I want to end with a segue to your next presenter, but I think Access Humboldt has really tried to position ourselves in the community to fill the niche that other media aren't able to support. We want to support every other local media and then do the next thing that they can't do, right? That's in a way, I think the way I feel about Access Humboldt's mission. So recently we've been working on a project with Internews that is to evaluate what does the information ecosystem look like in Humboldt County. And in Eureka, we did a study, the Eureka Information Ecosystem Assessment. And I'll share the link with you, but it's a very thoughtful study of how do people get information, share information, what do people care about, how do they find out about things, how do they tell people important things they want to share. And we had to narrow the focus to Eureka, but our goal is to take that information and keep propagating, take that knowledge forward to encompass all of Humboldt County. And what we've learned, part of what we learned is when you look at the media environment, the media role in the information ecosystem, the broadcast, television, and radio environment is actually regional. It's not just Eureka, it's not just Humboldt. It goes actually up from Curry County down to Mendocino and into Trinity County. And so we were very fortunate to find a partner in a Humboldt Area Foundation. Besides Internews is our initial partner, we brought in another partner, Humboldt Area Foundation. And they are helping us now to launch a project, and it's not yet launched, so you're gonna hear about this in the coming weeks. But it's called the Community Voices Coalition. And the goal is to really bring together the voices that you don't normally hear from, to bring forward stories from communities that aren't normally covered. And one of the initial partners is North Coast Journal, but there will be other media partners as well, and we'll be doing outreach. And our first step in doing this is to make sure that it has integrity in terms of ethics and journalistic ethics. It has an integrity, and I think that would be important to the human rights framing, that we're not just creating another voice, we're trying to create an operation that empowers a range of voices. So our first step is to create an editorial advisory board or an advisory group for the regional project. And then we're putting together a editorial team that will actually manage the project. It'll be probably just a short term. It's a COVID response designed project to help. What we're finding, I don't know if you've heard this, but for example, the English as a second language community and Spanish language speaking community in particular has a much higher incidence of COVID impacts. And part of that is information, access to good information and reliable information. So one of our immediate goals is to start pushing out more and better information to communities that have not had good information to respond to the immediate issues. For us, this is an ongoing effort and just critically important ongoing. So in my very open-ended presentation, I'll just say what my last point is: we certainly recognize how critically important it is to empower diverse voices and local voices that we don't hear from. So the moment that we're at in our community now of really acknowledging the need to see diversity and to support and empower local diverse voices is it's sort of woven into the fabric of what we do. But I think for a lot of the community, it's a refresh, a reinvigoration. So to the extent that the commission is looking at that, and I see you have a committee that you're reinvigorating there, I'd say I wish that committee had its own media channel, and that actually it does. It just needs to use Access Humboldt, because we have radio time, we have TV time, we have online resources, and we really want to support those diverse voices. So to the extent the commission is involved in helping empower more diverse voices, both through your public observer program or through your other activities, I think we see ourselves as a natural ally and partner, and we want to offer that to you. And I guess as the executive director, I just wanted to bring that directly to you as a group and say, we're here for you. If there's anything we can do, please let us know. I look forward to working with you in any way that we can going forward. And I'm happy to stick around and answer questions, but I know you've also had a long meeting and you have another cool presentation to hear.
Thank you, Sean, very, very much. Jim, I saw Jim's hand first.
Well, okay. I have other questions for Sean, but I see a lot of potential here. Things have changed to the degree that a lot of what you're recommending now makes more sense than it ever did before. But the question I have is, in your financial relationship with the cable provider, is that a sunsetting issue?
Yes.
And if so, how far off into the future is that?
Well, thanks for bringing that up. I mean, we try to push it off in our heads because right now we have resources to work with. But the trend line is that we are funded by a percentage of cable TV revenue that the local cable company gets. So the local ordinances actually require this. So the county and cities collect 5% of cable TV revenue that is generated in Humboldt County. And Access Humboldt receives 1.4%. So there's 6.4% collected, we get 1.4. The issue that we see is that's been steady so far, but the trend line is people are shifting their media consumption from cable TV to internet only. So to the extent that people cut the cord or no longer use cable TV as a discrete service, they're watching media online, Like this Zoom, we're not getting any revenue off of this Zoom meeting. But if you were on a cable TV channel, we'd get revenue. So Access Humboldt's whole structure is built on a piece of the landscape that is shrinking. And so we are in a aggressive reinvention mode. This is how we came to the project with Humboldt Area Foundation, actually. And that work with Internews is about our reinvention. What does the new version of Access Humboldt look like when cable TV is not that important, but maybe there's no other local news because that has collapsed. Maybe the Times Standard shuts down, or there's no more Norfolk Journal, or who knows, right? It's a very changing landscape. When we used to have half a dozen locally owned broadcast TV stations here in Eureka, now we have none, literally. I mean, I guess Heat is a locally owned license, but it's a franchise of PBS. It's not really a local station. Anyway, we don't have, there used to be, all the local stations used to be locally owned. They're not anymore. So the landscape is moving very quickly away from serving local communities' interests. And so in that sense, we're very active. On another note, I could point to a bunch of direct advocacy that we do and need to do. And I should probably be asking for your help with our advocacy, because the maintaining community access channels is at great risk and not happening everywhere.
Bird?
I see on my screen, it says that this meeting is being recorded. Can that be put on Access Humboldt immediately, Sean?
Absolutely. And actually, I meant to be more clear about that. We offer to this meeting and any other meeting that people want to share. If you have a recording of a meeting that's in video form, we will air it for free on Access Humboldt. We will archive it on Internet Archive for free. If you want it on the radio, it's up to the radio program manager, but we'll probably even air it on the radio if you want.
I move that we ask Access Humboldt to put this recorded meeting on Access Humboldt.
I second that.
Okay, all right. Any discussion? I have something that I would like to possibly include. I don't know if that's the appropriate time, but Sean, it sounds like that this would also be a really great opportunity to kind of structure that outreach, those listening meetings that we're talking about with you as well. So Eddie, what I'm thinking is that our, what are we calling it? Our Digital Accessibility Ad Hoc Committee should have a meeting with Access Humboldt.
Ahead of you already. Actually, that was one of the things that we want. I totally agree with that, and consider it done. And the same way with getting the meeting things. Humboldt Access was on the hit list of talking to people of getting things done. So yes. So Sean will be contacting you.
I just have to remind you, sorry, real quickly, it's Access Humboldt. So Humboldt, okay.
Bird?
I would like to revise my motion to ask Access Humboldt to air any recorded meeting that we have. And I don't know who seconded, but is that acceptable?
That was Eddie.
Yeah, I think what we can say is that we will give the information to Access Humboldt and how they plan to put it on. That's their, I mean, I know they'll be considerate about the whole thing, but I think what we do have control of is that the motion should be that we will provide them with the information of the meetings for airing.
Okay.
We can do that.
We will share all recorded meetings with Access Humboldt with the understanding that they will air them as appropriate.
There you go.
Okay. And Eddie, you second that?
I second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone disagree?
Any nays?
Any nays?
Abstentions?
Any abstentions? Thank you.
I just want to clarify. Could I just clarify real quick? We're different than other media, so whatever you present, whatever you hand us is what we air. If I would suggest maybe part of our conversation with Eddie's committee could be some lots of entities have engaged a little bit of our consulting time to get a production expert to help them design the program better for air and radio. And we could, as a separate service, we could offer you that, but the airtime is all free. You basically send us a link to a file and we air that on your commitment that you own it. We don't modify it or do any production support or filtering. So I just want that to be really clear. Whatever people give us, we air.
Great.
Sean, maybe before that meeting takes place, you could kind of have an idea of how you could help us with those things. And then when we sit down, then Eddie would be able to bring it back to be approved in a kind of a quick process.
Absolutely. I can bring our production manager into the conversation so it's real clear and simple and we can set up a workflow. I mean, if that's your goal, is to make these meetings transparent out on the channels and distributed more widely, we are designed to facilitate that. We have lots of experience and ideas and we'll be happy to help.
Jim?
I wonder if this doesn't change what we just voted to approve a little while ago as far as the Zoom meetings.
No, it's
No?
it's different. It
Okay.
might, the technology might morph, but I think for now, we have to have the Zoom to record. I mean, we have to have something to record. So,
Okay.
so yeah, no, that's why I said 6 months, I think is good. We'll figure it out. And we might go
Yeah.
into other programs.
And we need the Zoom right now to have public meetings.
And just FYI, with all the different jurisdictions we're using, Zoom is very common and robust and preferred in lots of user experience point of view, which is an important component.
It's very user-friendly.
Yes.
Any more discussion? Oh, Eddie?
Nope.
No more discussion?
I will contact Sean tomorrow.
Fantastic. I'd like to be invited to that discussion.
Fair enough.
Won't that be a committee meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
So, yeah, the whole committee, I would assume, would be.
Thanks for your
Okay.
time. I'm going to stick around and just listen because I want to hear about Mo's stuff. She's awesome.
Thanks, Sean, for coming, and I look forward to more. We all do.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, on to our next and our last agenda item is Mo Harper Desir and with Black Humboldt. Mo, are you around?
I've been listening to this whole meeting.
Welcome.
Thanks for having us. So just to reiterate, my name is Mo Harper Desir. I'm a local arts activist, educator, and creator in Humboldt County. I'm a transplant from the East Coast. I've been here for about 6 years. I'm here today to talk about Black Humboldt, who we are and what we do, and also some racial equity efforts that are happening in Humboldt County. So just to start, I want to talk about Black Humboldt. I feel like a lot of people recognize me as one of the volunteers that works with Black Humboldt. So we are basically a volunteer-run organization working to create and sustain safe spaces for Black and Brown BIPOC, which stands for Black, Indigenous, POC community members in Humboldt County. We achieve this goal through hosting exclusive spaces for Black and Brown bodies, which can include many different BIPOC identities. Black Humboldt, some people ask, like, who are our members? And realistically, our members are just anybody that identifies as Black and Brown within the BIPOC community. You don't have to have participated in our events or helped us organize anything, but we consider just the Black and Brown community here our members, right? Because those are the people we serve. We have a Black Humboldt Hub, which is the group of volunteers that have taken a further interest in creating and maintaining Black Humboldt events. We each kind of have our own backgrounds. We all hold different titles in our lives. Some of us own businesses, some of us are educators, some of us work, in the community. A few of us are parents. So we all come from different backgrounds and provide different things for the group. But the main interest that we all have is that we're creating and co-creating with each other under Black Humboldt's mission for Black representation and exclusive safe spaces. We have all types of areas of interest, arts and culture, our exclusive mixers. We also highlight the BIPOC business sector in Humboldt County, education, Black and brown bodies in cannabis. Representation is a huge thing that we focus on as well. So those are just some of the themes you might see us hosting in the community. I want to also take this time to clarify what we aren't. So we are not a political group and we don't take political stances. We did not create, organize, or facilitate any of the protests in the community, although we do support them happening. And just because Black Humboldt isn't creating them doesn't mean that there aren't Black community members doing this work. Or you may have seen some of the Black Humboldt Hub participating in the protests. I know there's a few pictures of me making speeches as well. And that was coming from me as a community member, not me as an organizer for Black Humboldt. I also want to clarify that we are not a source of information or learning opportunities for non-BIPOC community members on a regular basis. So we have events that offer racial education and equity and, you know, a chance to look into the Black perspective and into Black stories pertaining to, you know, racial inequalities like Juneteenth or MLK Day, or we host a Black Liberation Month. Some other things that we're planning for the future. All of these events hold opportunities for education, but we are not an organization that is leading workshops or, you know, taking time to provide the service of racial equity education. But we can, however, link you to some local individuals and organizations that do that. Our main focus is that we are providing services for Black and brown folk, whereas racial education generally would be a service towards non-Black and brown folk. So myself, I do a lot of inclusive education and inclusive workshops. Cooperation Humboldt holds space for this. The Equity Alliance through the Humboldt County Office of Education. NORCAN has a workshop list that I don't think they facilitate them, but they have a lot of the themes that a lot of boards, a lot of businesses are looking for right now, especially as we see the climate changing for racial equity. Who else? Oh, Humboldt Area Foundation hosts roundtable conversations, and Equity Arcata actually created themselves to offer training to businesses to make sure they understood implicit biases, microaggressions, you know, what equity actually means through actions versus words. And so in terms of your commission, we also can link you with some diverse identities that would be interested in working with this commission and on the committees if you're allowing non-commissioners to volunteer their time. So some ways to support Black Humboldt specifically is through monetary donations. You can donate space to be used exclusively in the future, and you can support local BIPOC businesses, which we have a directory on our website, and our website is www.blackhumboldt.com. And then on a more broad stance, especially for a human rights commission, I have a few points to bring up on ways that you can just support the BIPOC community in general, especially here in Humboldt County. Which is to support the national NAACP initiatives. We have an NAACP branch here in Eureka. They are who you want to lean on in times of, you know, racial confusion. We've had quite a few incidences that have happened in Humboldt just during quarantine alone, right? 4 to 5 months. That's a good place to start when you're not sure how to navigate those situations, like the graffiti on the fence. We're also asking that this commission approach racism and the aspects of racism in our community as a public health issue. Approach racism and racist actions in our community as a serious issue that needs action now, regardless if you have experienced or seen it for yourself, right? So allowing for space for victims to speak on things that maybe no one in this commission specifically has ever had to deal with or experience for themselves. And then I want you all to recognize how undiverse this commission and other commissions, teams, boards, and professions of power are in Humboldt County, and what conversations you can have with people you know holding those positions. It might be to recommend people that are reapplying for positions or, you know, rerunning for elected seats, and maybe it's time for them to step down and allow for someone else to take that space. Or helping to lead your colleagues, your bosses, your boards, your commissions through the appropriate trainings that create space of understanding that would help to welcome diverse identities, right? So it's one thing to know these identities exist, but if you don't have space for them to feel supported and included and a part of a team, then they're not gonna wanna join. And then also to create and sustain plans for relearning, reorganizing, and reframing the infrastructures within all these entities. So we have so many positions of power in this community, especially, that have only ever been obtained by white bodies, which, you know, we don't really know that that's wrong until someone tells us, or, you know, we look at our community and recognize that only 13% of them are even BIPOC identifying people. And a small percentage of that 13 is then also a visualized BIPOC person, right? Because we have white passing people of color all the time. So I just encourage you all to take the position you have on this commission to influence other areas where you see dominated by the same identities. It stretches even beyond race, right? We need LGBTQ representation as well as BIPOC. And moving forward to change infrastructures and the entities we depend on that are flushed in white supremacy, the only way we're going to relearn these things is if we start to reshape these infrastructures and the same identities that are continuously in power.
Thank you, Mo.
Yeah.
For your energy and your time. Jim?
Jim, you're muted.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. Since I'm taking notes, would you repeat what the acronym BIPOC stands for word?
Yeah, so it stands for Black, Indigenous, or Person of Color.
Okay, I was sure that's what it was, but I wanted to make sure.
Absolutely.
Any other comments, discussion? Well, I would like to say, Mo, that we would really like, we're a little more diverse than we look by forward facing, first of all, but we would really love to have more diversity in this commission, and we have quite a few openings. So please encourage, and if applications come in, you know, let us know. We don't choose those applicants. There's an appointed position by the Board of Supervisors, but we are encouraging them to bring on more youth, more ideas, and more diversity to very action-oriented individuals.
Yeah, and when I say diverse, I mean age, religious background. You know, I'm not just talking about race.
I don't think that's what you're talking about.
Just to clarify, yes.
No, and I don't either. That's not what I'm meaning either. You know, in order to effectively support a community, you need to have diversity that exists within that community. And we are very open to applicants of all diversity to participate, and we would appreciate it because we do care about this. This is a volunteer role, so that can be a hurdle for some, but we are very open to that. We also do have a committee, I think you were on earlier, that has yet to be activated just because we haven't had the participation that we needed, but we've just reorganized that a little bit. and would really appreciate community engagement with that committee as well. And we have to post those meetings 72 hours in advance so
No.
that, no, we don't?
Not an ad hoc committee, no.
Ah, so how can we notify the public around those committees?
We need to start collecting email or phone number contact information so that when it's appropriate or when we can arrange it.
Remember, that was one of the items we talked about, is creating that list of people to reach out to. I know we talked about it in our committee meeting, and basically that we send an email and a calendar invite to whomever is on that list.
That's, yeah, I mean, I guess that's the best we can do right now, but I imagine there's a way to get more accessibility, because us emailing doesn't engage new folks we don't have their email, right? Can we do a Facebook event around our ad hoc meetings?
Yes, we can totally do that. You can consider that done.
Okay. So then they'll be more accessible. Any other discussion or comments?
No, I would just like to thank Mo for being with us tonight and staying with us right till the very end.
I have one more thing. Mo, you did say that you would like us to consider racism as a public health issue. That would be a great, at that ad hoc committee meeting, that's where we could actually dive in and like talk about what that looks like.
Cool.
All right. And yes, thank you for being at the end of the agenda. We wanted to give you time, you and Sean time, because we thought it was both valuable. And thank you for hanging with us for that time.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me.
Thank
And
you.
we'll for sure let you know, we'll do the event, but we'll also let you know directly about the ad hoc meeting.
Yeah, we had a few people outreach to us just being like, what can we do? And there wasn't anything specific for Black Humboldt because we already kind of have what we do. So, we're trying to find places that we can put good-minded people to volunteering for the Black and Brown community,
Well, this is a great spot.
Perfect.
Yeah, thank you for coming.
Yeah, thanks.
We appreciate it. Okay, any future agenda items that you would like on the next month's agenda? Bird. You're on mute.
A reminder that we have the bylaws to approve, that they have been, am I off mute? Yeah.
No, you're off mute, yeah.
Okay. And that we will be bringing, two committees are bringing mission or purpose statements to be looked at.
So the bylaws, you mean next month, those will be on the agenda. Okay, not today. Okay.
No, next month. That's what we're talking about, August 8th.
Yeah.
6th. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so next month we'll be looking at the mission statements for the two new committees and approving the bylaws.
And I'd also like to have a discussion item again on Access Humboldt. And then maybe that will come through one of the committees, but it needs to be there somewhere.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that.
Okay, do we now call the meeting to close, Jim?
If you wish.
Sure. And I'm a minute early. I bet you didn't think that was going to happen.
Good job, Lelania. Good job.
Good job. I
Very good.
concur.
Very good.
You guys, first I want to say, Jim, you are an amazing leader, and I would not even have the minute amount of thinking I could do this if you hadn't taught me. I mean, I really, really would not think that I could manage this. And so thank you. And
You're welcome.
I'm grateful that you're still here to help us.
And I'm sorry that we're in social distancing so that we can't have a big party to celebrate, Jim.
Yes, your 10-year.
We'll take a rain check on that.
Yep, we'll do it.
That sounds like a great party.
Yeah.
Well, thank you everyone for being patient with me. And
Can I just say that we had somebody that wants to know about the application process, how it looks like. And so I think we should just send that person the application. Maggie Holiday says, also curious of what the application process looks like. Does anyone needs to get accepted? Who applies? So I think we should just communicate with her. We can do that. And then
so the application, they can get the application off our website, off the county site is the best way to get it. The process is pretty simple, but it is a process that goes through the Board of Supervisors. So you fill out an application and then the Board of Supervisors reviews it and they appoint the commission.
Jim?
Just so that it's clear, as Larry will attest, most appointments to the commission are on a district by district basis, but the supervisors do have latitude to appoint people that don't live in the area that has the vacancy.
How about we have 3 people, we have their names so we can contact them through Facebook. Once we have the material, can we just send it to them, Jim?
Why don't we post the application on the page?
That's even a better idea. I like that. Okay, we can do that.
We also have a chat that says, can't you put a public notice in the journal? I know we put it in the Times Standard, but can it go in the journal as well for our meetings?
We did send it out to all publications. Go ahead, Jim.
Well, the reason it probably wasn't in the North Coast Journal is the deadlines are different for each paper. So if you sent one out on last Wednesday to the Times Standard, it was already too late for the North Coast Journal. So that's something we would have to keep in mind.
Let's talk about that tomorrow. Like how we could time that better or something to get those resources. I was looking at a couple other things too that we could talk about around that. All right.
Okay.
Anyone else?
No, the last thing is what does it mean that you are more diverse than you look? I think we can we don't have to answer all questions.
Well, I think it's important to answer that.
All right.
We have at least 2 people that are LGBTQ. We have 1 person that is Black. We have 2 members. These are some of the people that are not here tonight. 2 people that are Indigenous. So that's what that comment related to. It happens. We look pretty white tonight, but there are members that are not here that represent a more diverse picture than it looks.
Yeah.
Can't judge a book by its cover.
Right.
Okay.
All right.
Oh, thank you, everybody. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Are we off live, Eddie?
No, we're not. We are still being recorded. Here, I need to finish the meeting. If you guys want to, I need to end the meeting.
All right. Good
recording.
night.
Good night.
Okay.
See you tomorrow.
Yes.
All right. Bye.
Good night.
What's happening tomorrow?